If you hold your body very still, you'll notice that you really don't have much say-so about what we refer to as the mind, or the thoughts, emotions, feelings, memories. But if you hold the body still, you can see more clearly that which is moving in the mind stream. You can see more clearly that which comes and goes without permission. Just observe that. Spend some time every day. Spend some time, a little bit of time every day, observing what's coming and going. And in this way, you will train your mind to see through, beyond your self-deception. And I'm not really accusing you of anything. Just observe. If you're in the Zen, please gather in front of the altar. And if you're on Zoom, please turn toward your computer screen, and thank you. First of all, thank you very much for all the help that you give to this community. Thank you for participating and studying the Dharma with us, attending these Dharma talks, asking questions and so on. And also, but with your financial support, this could not continue to happen without help in that way. So please continue to do that if you can. Help us with our daily situation. And also if you can help us with the community mindfulness center that we are still fundraising for. It's going to go into a new phase pretty quick. When does that start?
Hopefully October.
October, so it's a ways away, but we're working on it. So please help us to help others. That's what this is about. This is not about making a lot of money. This is about helping people fundamentally. So with that, I will proceed to give a Dharma talk with the title of
Everything teaches the Dharma.
Everything Teaches the Dharma. The other way of saying that, addressing that topic is the way Trungpa Rinpoche talked about it in the chapter of one of his books called The Universality of the Guru, or the universal nature of the teaching person, or the instruction. So I like to say it this way, and I also like to say it any way it shows up. But the simple thing that's being pointed out in this kind of a teaching is that if you become a student, you might need a teacher to do that, and that will help you introduce you to the world as a teacher or other people as teachers. If you're at war with the world or at war with other people, then you may need to get the help of a teacher to show you how to receive this incredible teaching of not separate, or not two things anywhere. If you think there are, then you are missing the fundamental nature of what you're looking at, which is unreal. It is an illusion. And if you continue to believe in that or buy into that or churn out thoughts around that, you just continue to be uncomfortable, if not out and out. But just the word suffering comes up. It's just suffering. It's difficult, challenging. Things will come out of nowhere and be very, very intensely negative, and we can't find a source for it. Why? There isn't one. You think there's a source for something, you'll go to war with it, or you'll try to talk to it, or you'll convince it, or. You need to see it. So the simple word here that I talk about daily to everyone, if they will listen to me, is just receive this. Well, first of all, just observe, sit down, hold still and observe, and whatever shows up, receive it. Don't put a bunch of ideas and thoughts and judgments and opinions on it, and then receive what you think about it. That's the very nature of this being deluded by the illusion, and to think that it's a real thing you got to escape from, or blame, or manipulate, or change, or scold, or get revenge. Frustrating. But you can do this. If you're listening to this, then you're probably would have not only an interest, but probably also have the actual ability to see what this is clearly yourself, not just believe in something or believe in Buddhism or believe in non-duality. Some people teach that way and maybe working it. I'm asking you, suggesting to you that you just look at whatever arises. And you can't just do that in your life. I'm just going to be with all things no matter what. No, that's probably not going to work because you are buying into your ideas about things and you're trying to be with the ideas of all things. And that is part of the meditation or the awareness practice. But that has to be practiced with the body very, very still. If you're shifting the body even a little bit, then that, because the body are not two separate things. If you're shifting the body even a little bit during your sitting meditation, the time in which you're shifting the body is the time that you're not receiving, you're producing. You don't have to believe me. This is just coming from a long time of looking at it. So you need to have some time, and that might be in a whole hour, it might be a total of 3.5 minutes. And you're not moving around or shifting or adjusting yourself inside or outside. So that's what's being recommended, is just to look at it without adjusting or moving. And if you do move, then just be aware of the movement. Whatever moves, watch it. If your body's not moving at all, then the mind will be going this way and that way, this way a little bit, and then come back, and then it'll go after something, and then it'll refuse it, and then it'll get to it, and then it will have ideas about what it just got to, rather than actually getting to what it was. I can tell you what it is, and I've said this at least 300 times. It's not separate. But if you think it is, then you'll go to war with it, go to peace with it, or you'll ignore it. Simply put. Everything's teaching. In some areas, the phenomenal world is shouting at you. Not separate, not separate. This is not separate. It's not saying it in words. What you're receiving through your sense fields is telling you this. But if you take what you receive in the sense fields, including the mind, including the consciousness, and go somewhere with it or interpret it, put something on it, it's not that might not have some relative accuracy. Of course it does. Relative truth is extremely convincing. Most people will just settle. They just settle for what they think. Because they can see that they can see how spinning and crazy other people are, and then they use that as a contrast to how clear they are. Well, at least I'm not like Jim, or at least I'm not having a difficulty that Mary's having. At least. So this can be done with the awareness. You can see yourself that whatever happens in your life, whether it is a flat tire, whether it is having difficulty with someone at a gas station, or whether it is interacting with some member of your family or your whatever relatives or sangha, that anything that occurs is an illusion. It is not, you can't find anything that's happening. In other words, changing from this to that, moving over here, coming back over. This is unreal. That's why it's so hard, because my hand is moving. Is this unreal? Yes. What is it doing? It's moving. Then how can it be unreal if it's moving? Look closely. This is what is being encouraged here, not believe what I'm saying. You might ask yourself, you could ask yourself, perhaps you'll ask yourself, what the hell is he even saying that for? Why would I sit up here and do something and say that's unreal? This is unreal. This is unreal. It's there, it shows up. It's quite similar to a movie, which is unreal, but it's there. An illusion is like that. It has its own structure of reality, but it's fundamentally unreal. Just like when you go to sleep at night, everything that looks so solid and real is just gone. Maybe only for 7 or 8 hours. It's not there, and you are in a completely different world. That when you're in it is very believable. Just like when you wake up, we're back into this world, which is very, very believable. What's the difference between those? Find out. I can tell you right now, there isn't any difference. But you need to see that yourself. Because if you don't see it yourself, then it's just a bunch of ideas or concepts about it based on what some person, some teacher, some teaching is saying. If the dream you have at night is a sample dream, and the dream that you have right now, this is the real dream. This is the one you need to awaken from. You're going to awaken from the one at night just by the nature of the body-mind complex, that in which consciousness and the body are not two different things. Take one of them away, the one apparent part of it. But just like if you take one hand away, still another hand. Isn't that a great image? So ill. So as if it is about seeing this, you see it. Not believe what I'm saying or anything about that, just I'll say it in a couple of words. What you're looking at is what you're looking for. And until you see that, then what you're looking at, you need to treat that as the teacher. And most of those lessons, if you can possibly consider everything that happens as a lesson. And a lot of them are very, very challenging and painful. But start now. It takes a long time. It takes decades to do this. If you're in your first decade of meditating, you have a ways to go. There's 2 or 3 more yet before you begin to get a glimmer of what this is. Do I know that? No. You might be practice 10 or 15 years and be pretty damn clear about everything. Be able to recite the Buddhist teachings, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, name the 12 links in the chain of existence and say them frontwards and backwards. But it's not realization. Realization is without thoughts, even though the thoughts are there, but they don't hold sway over the consciousness is what this is from the point of view of wisdom. It doesn't see something else. Consciousness, if it's wisdom, just sees wisdom. It doesn't see a bag of marbles or a cord of wood. It just, everywhere it looks, whether it's a cord of wood or the tail of a dragon, it just sees reality, and it's not separate from it. It's like looking in a mirror. It won't be an occurrence. If it's an occurrence, when things occur, then they disappear into the past or they fade away. Any realization you have, as it says in the Japanese tradition, it kensho, or insight into your true nature or your ineffable nature. Sometimes that shows up and you realize that who you are is not actually what you thought you were. And then that tends to fade out because it is an experience of something rather than the situation itself. The situation itself, not even a situation. Situations come and go. It's called dependent origination, pratitya samutpada. And what do we do? What do we do? What is the instruction here? Just observe that. Be very generous. Give all of your attention to everything. When something happens, whether it's a person walking in the room that you think is a wonderful, kind, loving person, or someone else that comes to the room that you think has their head up their butt, or it's very difficult and very challenging, or seems full of himself or greedy or something like that, please just receive. Unless you're functioning as a teacher, which if you think you're a teacher, you're not. You want to become a Dharma teacher, you can't. The only way that can even happen is when you can't help it. You have to do this. And it's not about being successful. If I was looking at my teaching situation for the last 15 years, it was going by being successful, I'd probably quit. I don't have one student that I think is enlightened or awake. And if I did have one, I would tell you that. I have a few that might think they are. That also doesn't mean that there aren't some incredible teachers right here in our midst, right here, that are able to look at what the Buddha said and teach that to others. What I'm saying is that's a lot different than actually pointing out the nature of reality to someone. Because if you think there's that someone is someone else, then you can't do it. There isn't anyone else. There isn't even a you. When that happens, then all you see is people who don't know who they are. They may be students, they may not. They don't know who they are, then they're still looking for success or something, or relief from suffering, or more mindfulness, or less torture, or less existential angst, something else. Need to feel better. One who is realized will still have emotions and feelings. They just will not be concerned about whether they are there or not, because they see the fundamental nature of it is dependently arisen. There's no one feeling anything. There's just consciousness. It just happens to be showing up in this particular form as a human form. But that is an illusion. All the millions and millions of people that lived a couple hundred years ago, those bodies are gone. But those consciousnesses that were there have not gone anywhere because they did not appear. They appeared in the body, in the sense that they appeared as a body, but that's not true. So when the body went away, the consciousness still the consciousness continued on the trajectory that it had engendered by its passion, aggression, and ignorance, hope, and fear. That will still be functioning, whether it shows up as another body form on another planet or on this planet, or in the past or in the future. Past and the future are not two separate things. There's no future life, there's no past life. Those are illusions. Nothing occurs, but it sure the hell feels like it. And it's painful. That's why I'm saying here, I am encouraging you with all my heart. I'm encouraging you to see your true nature yourself. Don't believe me? Just take that. Forget everything else I ever said. Find out who this is. Remember that. Find out who you are. Mistaken identity is why all the world is tearing itself apart and torturing each other, blowing things up based on the belief in other. Paranoia, intense, overwhelming paranoia. We see it all over. Just total insanity on the news media. It's frustrating to see, but it's dependently arisen. You can't just go ahead and find the off switch. I know who you are. Don't get your identity from me or from what people say about you, positive, negative, neutral. Find out, take a deep look into this person you are. A way to do that, I'm saying there are other ways. Maybe there's a drug out there, if you take that, that guarantees some kind of deep understanding of the nature of reality. Maybe. But this is an ancient path. Goes back thousands of years. Probably even before that. It's been around forever, as long as there have been human beings. You may need this teaching or that teaching or some kind of concepts to work with. You may need to do some kind of practice. The one that I teach, of course, is sit down, hold still, and just observe. And the technical word, of course, out of the Japanese tradition is just precisely this, or shikantaza. You don't really need to call it shikantaza. Call it anything. But hold still. Watch the continued ramping up or movement of everything, and don't agree with it, don't disagree with it, don't shut down or ignore it. It takes a long time to do that, because most of the time we spend practicing shikantaza, we kind of witness how we just keep on daydreaming or keep on having negative feelings or thoughts, or else we go to sleep, or else we sit there for 20, 30 minutes and don't remember even sitting there. Time has just gone by, and we think that's some kind of a problem. We always conclude something about something. Something happens, conclusion. Something else happens, conclusion. It could be positive, negative, or neutral. Anytime you conclude anything, you're just spinning the wheel of samsara. It's like it's almost like you like it here in this, what, rat race? You can see this. It will not be an experience. It will not be something that you can even put your finger on, so to speak. This is Thursday of last week. Now, I'm not saying there aren't teachers out there that talk about their enlightenment. Quite a number of them. It was this way and this way until they suddenly saw what this was. Maybe so. I didn't see anything. I don't have any enlightenment experiences. I have experiences, but enlightenment is not an experience. So you could say if enlightenment is an experience, then I certainly haven't had that. So who is this up here talking? What is this teaching? This is just a lamppost talking. I am trying to encourage you to look at the trees, look at your footsteps, listen to the sounds of everything, not just birds or romantic kind of things. Oh, that's a good idea. Also the sounds of the traffic, the sounds of people walking down the hallway. The way all of the world seems to be moving, getting lighter, getting darker, getting noisier, getting quieter. Notice those contrasts without adding, subtracting, or dividing anything. Don't judge, don't evaluate, don't conclude. And of course, the path, ground, path, and provision. The ground is suffering or difficulty or stress or disappointment or just sadness about being alive. And the path is see the truth yourself. And this is what the Buddha taught for many years. And this is what any true teacher is going to encourage you to see what this is yourself. That's the path. And the path seems to be full of a lot of things that are not true. You're going to have to look at the untruth and just let it come towards you without pushing it away or judging it or adding your stupid story to it about why it's happening, who caused it. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to the world. Just receive it. It won't taste good, may not sound good. Receive it anyway. This is the first noble truth, second noble truth. Life is suffering or discontent, and it's caused by not wanting that, wanting to push it away. Don't push anything away. If it shows up in your mind, even it looks like the guy next door is causing it. I'm not saying that relativity isn't there, but it's not the fundamental understanding of it. Don't stop with a conclusion about who caused what. This doesn't mean that we are ready to live completely without laws or guidelines or standards. No, we're going to need a lot of those for a while. But we have standards in a monastery so that you can come and observe the standards. You don't obey them. Although some monasteries, you better obey them or you're not going to stay there. This was a little bit different here. Have the standards, they're to be observed. We observe how we can't do them, and we observe how we can do them, and we observe how we're doing things that other people don't seem to be doing, but they're living in the same monastery, in the same community, yet they're not. What are they, getting a break or something? Monastery functions a lot smoother if everybody just obeys everything. But it's not really fundamentally helping people to awaken. It's helping everybody to agree or all be on the same page or all the other things that are used that way. We have to meet everything that shows up as it is, not as we would like it to be. Please ask the question.
Shadow bowing in a monastery, what does help people to awaken?
The teacher. Not a teacher. I don't care how wonderful the monastery is. It's just a 300 monks. If there's no teacher there, if there's no teacher in that situation, it can't happen. Because the teacher actually is looking at what everyone else is looking at, except the teacher sees what it is. And everyone else sees what they think it is, which is the very nature of samsara, confusion, or delusion. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing. How do we trust that the teacher's seeing something we don't? Bowing.
Don't trust anybody. Don't trust me. I ask for your trust.
No.
No. I may say to you, you may have to do something like trust. You may have to give me the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, you just continue to go in circles. I might need to get some help from somebody. I would be very careful about who you settle on, who you decide you want to be your teacher. But once you have that teacher, then you have to trust the original intuition to step on that path, that first step on the path. You have to go all the way. Why? Not because the teacher could be a charlatan and you might not find out for 3 or 4 years. But there's a teaching that addresses that. One of them is even a fool, folly of a fool eventually will become wise, just because the very nature of dependent origination is that if you just observe, no matter what, you can do that. So you could even awaken under the guidance of a charlatan. It's possible. I think it's less possible, but it's possible. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing to a different area with the title. It seems, and I've heard we start with the teacher, and it seems easier at the beginning to receive from the teacher because we've given them permission.
Because you're in a honeymoon period.
What's the nature of permission?
Well, it starts out as a relative situation. You want to study under that particular teacher, so you're giving permission. More about it, more specific.
Shadow bowing. It seems like when someone tries to teach me, or I perceive that they're teaching me, my first instinct is that they don't have permission. And I'm wondering, something's fishy about that. What is it?
I don't know. You give me permission,
I try to.
okay? So what is it you're asking about then? You have several other teachers that you are trying to figure out a way to give permission? Like all you have to do is to send you, is just teach me, send you. She'll teach you. Her eyes got really big when I said it. You see what I'm saying? It's a little silly, but I'm just saying. You can actually make that statement to someone, but you have to mean it. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing. How can we give permission if there isn't anyone?
The consciousness. It's just that the consciousness is there. It just looks like a separate being. But you wouldn't be asking that if you didn't have some kind of fundamental intuition that you were not seeing things clearly, and you've just met somebody who something about that situation shows that they seem to have some kind of understanding or insight that you don't have. I don't know if that's true in this situation, but something like that is probably happening, or you wouldn't have moved your whole life from Ohio to here. More about it if you have. It's a very good area question, and especially for you being the Sokuzan.
Shadow bowing. It just feels presumptuous that I could be someone to give anything permission. It feels like the same thing as the ego trying to keep things in and out. And I'm trying to understand what.
I think it's very simple. You just decide to do that, and then you just continue. My situation with Trungpa Rinpoche was quite convoluted. I wasn't sure. I was very frightened of him. But on the other hand, I read his books. He only had 3 when I met him, 2 or 3. two, I think he had two. And I just read those over and over and over again, and there didn't have talks like we do now, you can just go on YouTube, didn't have YouTube. But I just read those over and over again, and along with all the other things I was reading. And I just felt, I just felt like I just have to, I need help. Can't do this myself. I've been reading and studying for a long time. When I was in my early 30s, so I just felt like I needed help. And even though he was scary, I just decided that it was going to be him.
Shoto bowing. In particular, I'm looking at permission for things that aren't the teacher, like everything's teaching. How do we give permission to everything beyond the teacher?
We'll start with the teacher, and then the rest of it is the path. The teacher's path also, but then the rest of it is noticing how you keep objecting to things. Be aware of the objecting. Don't fix anything. This is why the everything as a teacher is aligned with the Dzogchen teaching of the great perfection. There's nothing to fix anywhere. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wrong. And of course, we can go in and pick things apart and say, well, how about this? And how about that? Or how about the Gaza Strip? Or how about? We're not saying there isn't a dependent origination that is a chaotic landslide that is very, very painful. But that has to do with grasping, rejecting, shutting down, passion, aggression, and ignorance, being involved in a consciousness that is balled up into a knot of me, and my stuff, my ideas, my paranoia, and my projections about everything. So you stumble into this path, then you're encouraged to just see the nature of what this is by starting with what? Your mind. Start with your mind. Just watch your own mind. Observe it. Difficult, it's time consuming, because we don't really see all the centuries of consciousness that have been coming and going that we have not been separate from. You just end up here and you're 34 years old. That's not very old. And actually, when it comes to timing, I'm more than twice that age, and even that isn't very old. Old is a lot older in terms of years.
Shoto bowing. It seems, at least for me on the path, that one thing that has and does die down is the inspiration to see the truth. I feel like I'm just here because I live here and just trying to do my best, but I don't feel like I'm trying to see the truth, or that really resonates sometimes. Is that something we need to cultivate or bring up? Yeah.
No. It takes a while to realize that. No, just continue. You're a fully ordained monk. You're practicing with the Sangha, and you do sitting meditation every day as much as you can. You also have all kinds of other projects going on. You're part of the Sangha, or the spiritual community. Very important, yes.
Shoto bowing. It just shows up as tremendous doubt that this is even something that's doable, or that you're even telling the truth anymore.
Well, leave.
Can't.
Why not?
I just
Why
can't.
not? I don't stop you. I mean, didn't we even discuss you moving to Ohio? I think it's pronounced Ohio, not Ohio. That's a cracker. Right? It's not funny, you know. You follow what I'm saying? I'm saying I'm not a prison. I mean, if somebody wants to leave, I might say, not a good idea. I said that to several people. Not a good idea. You should stay here no matter what. But if you say, well, I have to leave, I have to go, and I said, well, go somewhere else. Go do something else. You've just gone in another direction that the person you've asked to be your teacher has said, not a good idea. I've said that to people who have left. I've even helped them leave because they seem so miserable. Are you miserable? First Noble Truth. But there's a teaching, there's a way to work with that. It's caused by wanting something else. And you won't know that you want something else until you realize it with consciousness. Thought process, you cannot figure this out. Just if you try to calculate or figure, judge the judgment or the relative truth part of it, play into that, and sure. You can be swamped by that, that kind of situation of thinking that some things are correct and some things are incorrect, because relatively, that holds up. Just like it would, in a court of law. Isn't that true, Sanho? You agree? It's just that it's that structured that way so that we can do what? Have some kind of control over the chaos because it's so intense. So we've come up with ways to do that, to work with it, but that doesn't mean it's ultimate truth. It just means it's a very practical, pragmatic, relative truth. And we also have that here in the monastery. We try to CCC, communicate, cooperate, collaborate, so that whatever outcomes, if there are some, that at least they're somewhat sane and balanced and have some cooperation going on amongst confused people. That works well for some people, and some people it doesn't work so well for. You just do it anyway. More?
Wonderbang, is there anything that is not a teaching?
As long as you're a student, and yes, everything is a teaching. This is a student here. Otherwise, I couldn't do this. I have to receive all the time from every one of you. And even though you might have an interview with me and I might talk a lot, I'm still watching you. And why am I watching you? I'm gonna help you if I can. But if I don't have permission, and that doesn't mean that you haven't given me permission, but about saying if there isn't enough openness there for me to point at something, then I just tend to just listen to you, waiting for something to open up so that I can stomp into your mind stream with my muddy feet, so I can show you what this is. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? My teacher said you may need a teacher in order to introduce you to the world, because the world is a chaotic place. So you may need to meet chaos in the form of a teacher, so that he, she, or they can actually skillfully show you what this is without necessarily triggering your the negativity that's has been helping you stay in the prison of your own mind for the last 30 lifetimes.
Was a good bowing. For me, permission shows up more that I'll just call it a belief. I believe that you want to help me. Is having
Got you buffaloed, don't I?
a
Oh, we're going to draw buffaloes in this. Go ahead.
is that belief in the way of me actually receiving you?
Don't believe anything. Don't disbelieve anything. And don't ignore anything. Those are the three poisons. A way of talking about the 3 points is don't believe it. Don't disbelieve it. Elijah calls.
He threw up.
Well, he didn't throw up on you. You're still here. Doesn't he have a dad?
Yes.
He threw up on dad.
He threw up all over his bed and his sleeper.
Something you have to attend to.
No, I don't have to.
Well, have a seat. I mean, just gives you the numb. Well,
Mozuku bowing. If there's a contrast between receiving you and receiving everything else that shows up, does there have to be some sort of projection involved on the teacher?
probably everybody's projecting on the teacher. Most of it is not true. Yeah, all kinds of things are being projected. But to project on the teacher is at least you have a teacher. So then it's a matter of practicing yourself so that you can slowly see how that whole thing works with you as a separate person projecting on someone else and believing your thoughts about that situation. You try to do that in an intimate relationship, you just got warfare. That's why there is such a thing as divorces and people splitting up. The teacher will never divorce you, but you might have to divorce the teacher. Possible, go ahead. It's a good area to ask in if you can do that.
Mr. Browning. Is it possible for me to tell the difference between what I believe and what I know?
I think eventually, I think that can show up. What do you know?
It shows up as though I know that you want to help me.
So you don't just believe that?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's a good area to look into. Somehow,
So, can you hear me?
I can.
If everything is a teacher. Trump wrote a bit about how because everything is a teacher, you shouldn't break up. You should endeavor not to. So how do you know if breaking up is the right thing to do, or if you should just receive that teaching, whatever's happening? So,
I can respond to that very directly. Always receive it. Just be a student. If you can, just receive it. But some people get in such a, get their get in such of a knot of their own suffering and their belief that somehow that teacher is causing their suffering. Well, that's actually a teaching. Because this teacher, if you get very close to me, you're going to get burned. When I say that, not deliberately burning anyone, but this, I function, I don't think about how to teach, I just am here. So you should just stay with the teacher no matter what. You may be able to do that. Perhaps you can, perhaps you can't. You follow me a little bit? Go ahead.
Somehow bowing. What about entanglements that are not you?
Not me. Like partners or coworkers or sangha or,
I was imagining partners, yeah.
yeah, well, that would, well, just do the best you can with a situation. If the person, you can give a little bit more benefit of the doubt if the person is also a meditator, especially if you both have the same teacher. That might help. It will not solve it. There still needs to be that individual relationship of you with the teacher and that relationship of you with your intimate partner, if that's what you're referring to there. It's a good area to ask questions in. Sir,
Jeez, I'm dying. How are my own outflows teaching the Dharma?
how are your own outflows? Because I'm a student. So I receive your outflows. Haven't you noticed that? All the interviews we've had? Or you're asking something else?
Jeez, I'm dying. I'm wondering what I'm learning from my outflows.
By watching the outflow and watch the way when you have an outflow that you have another outflow on top of it that validates or justifies it, or another outflow on top of it that thinks that's wrong, I shouldn't be thinking that. To have just had the outflow with no comment. This is what you're practicing, in case you didn't know, I'll tell you. When you're practicing shikantaza, you're just practicing so that you can watch the mind produce. Just relative things, there's things that are not true. They're relatively true, but they're ultimately not true. Covering up wisdom takes a while. And it is fueled by fear of being wrong or fear of being put upon or fear of being all the things that fly around the self-centered part of the mind, the ego of feeling like we're not appreciated or we're not getting what we want. All of those tend to generate all that. So it is about observing that, not fixing it or concluding it or doing anything with it at all, just observe. So that's the way you're outflow, by watching it to actually know you're outflowing is a start. You may not be able to stop that. Like, as I said, the image I've been using lately is like you see the landslide and you want to stop it because you see that what the landslide is not so good, but you can't stop a landslide because it started way before you stuck your finger into it to try to stop it. You have to go to the source of it if you can.
Confusing by, are the outflows themselves covering up wisdom?
Yes. Yeah.
Ondabang, is observing enough to receive?
So the observing is to watch what's coming and going. And then the receiving is to, if it's coming towards you, then receive it. Don't add anything to it. To make it more palatable or put some kind of scrim over it. So, or some kind of condiments. I used to use or have used that word as if it were like food. You have to put a lot of salt on it because it's too bland. We have to put a lot of, what's that other condiment? Chili peppers. Yeah. Go ahead.
Ondabang, it seems like that if everything is teaching us, we'd have to slow way down in order to observe and receive everything.
Yes, we're very speedy and we need to sit down in front of the wall, slow way down. And we need to do a lot of that. Those of you who have been around here for years and years, and especially those of you who are fully ordained monks, have been practicing this for years. All of us, last couple of Februaries, we sit the whole time. And why did we start that? It's because we need to sit more. So create a forum and then invite everybody to come and do it. And I was even joining that forum myself because I felt it was helpful for me to practice also.
Ondabang, what is the teaching in listening to your malas? Bowing.
Can you hear him? I can't even hear him. But Sanho can. Sanho. Hear that? What's the teaching in that?
Just observe.
I have a cohort here. So yes, what is the teaching in that? It's just some aspect of phenomena that is showing up. Just receive it. And of course, if it's the teacher, I don't know if that carries any weight for you or for Sokuzan or for Milka. Milka makes mountains, so it might be different for him. You might say, I need to make them out of glass so they have a tinkling sound. More? Is that what you wanted to hear about or?
Ondabang, I'm just trying to look at what teaching actually is and how, like I was driving down M66 today for a couple of hours and there was everything coming at me, sounds, sights.
From Ionia down to Valkyrie.
From Remus.
Okay.
Uh,
So what's your question?
it just seems like we'd have to be moving incredibly slowly in order to take in everything or to receive whatever is showing up.
So the receiving is also dependently risen, but the place to practice that is to sit very still and watch what is coming and going, just like watching traffic come by or your own vehicle going down the highway, all the scenery moving past you. Very much like sitting still in the Zendo or in your meditation room and just watching the mind, the scenery come and go and come and show up and fade away and show up and fade away. Just observe. You train your mind to observe so that when no matter what you're doing, you fundamentally see what it is and you're able to receive it as in your eyes, ears, nose, mind.
Mizuku bowing.
Yes.
Still curious about the contrast between receiving from the teacher and receiving everything else. Whatever it is that allows me to give you the benefit of the doubt, does that eventually need to extend to everything else?
So there's no extension. It's the teacher, you have a teacher, you can actually have a tree be your teacher. You could have a goat be your teacher, but you'd have to receive it. You'd have to be completely receiving that. It is unlikely that you could do it that way because the tendency to project onto anything is intense. Project onto the teacher, that's pretty intense, because the teacher doesn't mind. Go ahead, you project. The teacher is not particularly projecting anything. They're not free of that. That may come and go in their particular karma also, but not much. So as far as one switching into the other, there will not be an event there. Consciousness doesn't have events, and if it does, it's an illusion. It's not actually consciousness, it's illusion. It's illusion that is showing up as something that is relatively real, which is of course an illusion.
Those are goodbye. If I were relating to a goat as my teacher,
How many goats?
here's the one.
What kind? Nubian?
Sure,
No. How about an alpine?
probably not.
Because of the pointed ears. Yeah. You like those ears that kind of go like this. That's a Nubian. I haven't distracted you very much, have I? We're actually going in for the kill. Go ahead.
Would my projections on the goat function differently from my projections on you?
Same thing. Everything has a position because you project it on its position. You give something its svabhava, but it is ni svabhava. There is no self other, there's no center to anything. The student doesn't know that. They keep assigning reality to various things, their thoughts for one, their emotions, or other people's actions and their words. And of course, this whole society plays along with that relativity. But the teacher has no position. There's no solid center here. There never was. And there's not one where you're at either in this body mind that you're situated in. You can actually live without any kind of reference point. Doesn't mean that the reference points won't come up. They will situationally because they're situations. Time to eat, time to go to the restroom, time to turn up the heat, time to turn on the air conditioning. Situation. So those happen situationally. But if you're sitting still, there's no situation other than just this. But what does the ego do? Make stuff up, daydream about stuff, worry about things, fret. How do I know about it? I do it. It's just that I don't believe it. So I actually enjoy all that stuff. Sometimes if I'm really enjoying something, I share it with others, but then they could take offense and think that I'm picking on them. There's a few of those people on here. Go ahead.
Those are goodbye. With all that projecting going on, how is it possible to even be a student?
It's difficult. You just keep going anyway. If you notice I show up every day. You think, what do I think? Do you think there's some kind of reward here for me? Whoop-de-doo. What's in this for an old man? What's in it for me? How does it look like? Does it look like I'm getting something out of this? You think I actually like you? You know what I'm pointing at? It's obvious, isn't it? Could be. Okay, Jishin, I was trying to not have you ask a question, but you always twist my mind up in knots. So here we go. What would you like to know?
Jishin bowing. Is there more in everything is a teacher than to receive it? Bowing.
I'm not sure what the But what do you want to know? Can you help me with that?
You keep saying to receive whatever is in front of us, and you said that everything which is in front of us is our teacher.
Yes.
So is what you are encouraging us to do is simply receiving? Sorry, or is there more to that, to the receiving of what is in front of us?
Well, receive it, but then also you would eventually, through the direction or the instruction to receive, you'd also receive your notice or be aware that when you're receiving something, you also are laying opinions and ideas and judgments on it, considerations about that. You're going to receive it, but not totally, because you have some doubts about it or some explanations, some projections, etc. So it's not to just receive something as it is. You won't know what it is. You may not even, the actual name of it may not even show up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Total bowing. If we have doubts about the path and we're not sure why we're doing it, but we're going to do it anyway, are we still on the path?
Yes. It's only natural, ordinary to have doubts come and go and come and go. The ego will do that to try to create some kind of polarity of being, I'm the one who has doubts. Ego gets its identity from positive things and negative things. So that's why you have the two poles of pride and shame. So the ego is usually on one pole or the other. Quite often a person is born with a lot of pride, and shame will come in once in a while, but it's so painful they'll just return to pride. It's much easier. And then another person might have a little bit of pride, but get too self-conscious about it and just go to a shame or just feeling I'm pretty worthless. I'm not, especially if you've been really abused at some point. You might, the shame area might give you a little bit more identity strength there. But at least I know I'm, not very good at stuff and I'm not very successful. And even complimenting a person like that, they can make them feel embarrassed because they know they're worthless. Are they? Of course they're not, but that's a way of supporting the ego, just like thinking that you're way ahead of everybody else, is smarter than everybody, and you're more clear about this than your teacher. If you are, then you probably need to leave the teacher and go do something else.
Total bowing. What's the other side of the pole of doubt?
A relative confidence based on thoughts and ideas and generating thoughts about. The downside of that is that starts to get shaky, then the person starts to get embarrassed and wants to kill themselves. It's just too painful. And sometimes they do. I'm not saying it's always like that, but it has that kind of a character to it. It's just they've been doing it, and all of a sudden it's just too much. They can't stand their own self-centeredness. They might not have that story about it, but that's the underlayment of fundamental fear. Fundamental fear, which shows up as passion. Go ahead, or aggression, or ignorance. I'll leave anybody else. Go ahead.
Total bowing. When the doubt shows up for me, that seems to be very obvious. It's, in the midst of that, is there something I can learn about the relative confidence that it seems like I'm ignoring?
So just observe. There's no way you can go around and try to calculate or figure that. Is there some way? The question I'm always getting from people so many different ways, and it's a valid question, but this and this and this, and how do I work with that? This happens, and how do I work with that? And what do I say? Just look at it, just receive it, endeavor not to turn it into something else. As it says, and it teaches 7 points of mind training. Don't move the ox's load to the cow. Let the ox do the work. Don't shift your situation over to something else because you can't stand to look at how it actually looks and it's in the state you ran into it. You want to do something else with it. Okay.
Yoka Bowing. Questions on YouTube. Moon Wolf asks, in this illusion, what is the most profound way?
Kind of wolf,
Moon.
moon wolf. Hmm. What's he look like, or she? Can't see him.
Has a moon icon.
Is there a wolf?
Not that I can.
Huh? Not that you can see. Okay,
Yes.
what's the question?
In this illusion, what is the most profound way to face or deal with problems?
So there's ultimate teachings and relative. I'll start out with the relative teaching, which would be just eat it, just receive it, just look at it. And then the ultimate part of that would be a child of illusion, which I'm getting from a teacher's 7 points of mind training again. This ultimate teaching is just everything is unreal. Just look at this as unreal rather than you want to bring your intellect to it, bring that part of the intellect that just comes up with that kind of a conclusion, and then force feed yourself that. When I say force, I'm saying be a child of illusion. You're not a child. This looks real, but consider that. So that's I don't know. I would have to give you any more definite situation or feedback. I would have to probably know you personally to know what kind of particular consciousness that question is arising out of. Also, I would want to know how old you are, and I would want to know a lot of things. I want to know if you are practicing sitting meditation, because these can be great questions. But if you have no sitting meditation, then I'm very biased here. Without a lot of time spent sitting down, cutting through the speediness of the mind, and then the demand for results, the demand for logic, and the demand for reason, and all of that stuff that is fine for philosophers, but not for us. You need to look at this with the consciousness. There are teachers that give you some help in that area, not a lot of them. Dogen, Vasubandhu. They're able to use concepts in such a way that you can't turn it into some kind of a improvement project. You have to see what it is.
Yoka Bowing. Question from Joshua Jung. Josh Bowing, if everything teaches the Dharma, what is the point of sitting? Why not go do anything else and receive that? Bowing.
Well, you could, but the tendency to project onto everything is so powerful that you'll think you're receiving the teaching when you're just receiving aspects of your mind that are still full of confusion, passion, aggression, sometimes even hatred. So seems to be necessary to have a teacher. It wouldn't have to be a Buddhist, but someone who sees what this is, knows what this is, has no interest in controlling you, getting you to join their club, or any, as I've told people, I told someone just today, I don't care if you ever receive a Jukai or become a monk. The only thing I care about is to help, with your permission, to help you see who you are. You may need to become a monk or a lay practitioner or a official Buddhist or live in a monastery. You may not. But if somebody comes to me, I meet them where they're at in the question. I'm dealing with this and this and this. What do I do there? I say the main situation is mistaken identity. You think you are somebody, you're not. So the very fundamental part of the illusion you believe in. You think you're a person. Now, if it would help you, I would start screaming at you right now. I think I've done that a few times, and people get upset because I'm becoming an ornery old man. Well, I'm not an ornery old man.
Josh Bowing. Hi, I was I just asked the question, but I popped into the Zoom. May I ask another one?
Certainly, go right ahead. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. Um, what is it about sitting, and I may be misquoting you here, misunderstanding. What is it about sitting that makes it less likely or to project compared to receiving elsewhere?
Are you Josh Zheng?
Yes, I am.
Is that pronounced Zheng?
No, it's pronounced Zhang, but I understand what you mean.
Well, I guess. Okay, well, it's good that you understand that. I was gonna ask Yuheng how to pronounce it, but since you helped me there. Okay, so, let me have that question again.
Yes. What is it about sitting that makes it less likely for me to project?
But it's more, you might project more, but you'll be more aware of the projection. So it's not like you're slowly improving and being a less of a projector. The way we work with projections is to eventually realize there never was a projector, but that takes a while. You might have to look at a lot of stupid projections for a long time before that part of the consciousness that is wrapped up into a knot of me, and my stuff, my ideas, I'm right, I'm this or I'm that, and with all kinds of identity fabrications. So they could get worse. But what will, and there's no guarantee for this, but probably what will happen if you're emphasizing consciousness, not what arises in the consciousness. And the only way you can emphasize consciousness is not to emphasize the consciousness or try to be more conscious or be more aware necessarily, but to watch what moves in the consciousness so that eventually you see that that which moves in the consciousness is unreal. But it cannot be there, that unreality cannot be there without consciousness, which is your true nature. Fundamentally, you are just consciousness only. Just a way of using words. Even that might not be helpful to you. What do you think?
Nothing immediately.
Very good. Any other questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Keep sitting. And if you haven't started sitting, then start. That's all I have to say about that. I don't need to be your teacher. I don't think I am, actually. Would be my sense. Any other questions here before we jump ship? Go ahead, Young.
I have a question about just a regular job situation. I don't know how to ask in the kind way, but I think I will ask you if you are a teacher who teaches teenagers, for example, 13, 14 years old. You said just receive. I feel like I never really be able to just receive that deeply. How if there are some troublemakers or there's like not good behaviors, how do you receive at the same time to get the class going?
Well, you may have to kick them out of the class.
I could.
Yeah.
But I don't like myself doing that. That's a problem.
But it's not about you, my dear. It is about them. Not about how you feel. It's about how you feel. Most of the world is running about how they feel about everything. So look at the situation and realize that if they're creating chaos, you're not their parents. You can't really work with them as a parent. You have to work with them as a teacher. If they're creating chaos and they're interrupting not only what you're doing, they're little power hungry people. They find that they can kind of control you or the situation by creating chaos. Not that they aren't suffering and don't need help, but they're not in a position where you can help them. You can't help them unless they fall in line with what it is you're trying to teach. So kick them out. I mean, you don't have to be mean, like get out of my classroom, like that. You don't have to do that. But you could say it. You could pacify that, or you could actually enrich that situation. You've heard of pacifying, enriching, magnetizing, and destroying. So you could enrich that, or you could pacify. But it sounds like you've probably already done quite a bit of that. But you could enrich it by by going there and taking, what are there, 3 of them?
No, just so far two.
Well,
Just the beginning of the school year. This
Oh,
is
well,
just the beginning of school year.
take, it depends on what their relationship is with each other. You might take them together, you might take them separately. And then have a confidential talk with them over in the other corner or whatever and say, you know, it looks like you really don't want to be here. So, and I can tell because you don't seem to function like a student. I have a lot of students here. I want to help them. So you're not functioning that way. So I'm going to ask you to take a break for a while and just go out and wait. And when you decide you want to come and be a student, and you've heard me say CCC, communicate, cooperate, collaborate. Communication with these young people would be the best thing to start with. And they might turn in their tracks that minute, you know, just by hearing what you're saying, that you're willing to actually have them leave and be out of the class rather than you're not going to be able to fix them. And I don't even know what they're doing, but I can imagine because I was a student.
That's the difficult part for me is I'm a mom and I really want to help students like deeply. That's the part every time I feel like I can turn my voice, I'm very aware. I don't like myself doing that. However, I still have to be very firm.
But I'm a mom. We got children everywhere. Put them first. Think about it. You don't have to go and institute anything I've said to you. You don't have to do anything I've said, but you might want to consider what is fundamentally going to be the most helpful to these young people. You might have to give up some of your own priorities, like how you feel about it, in order to fundamentally help them. I'm not talking about being cruel or harsh or mean. I'm just saying you might have to remove them from it. It doesn't sound like they're very cooperative.
Thank you, Guy.
Let me know how that goes.
Yes, I will.
Keep me apprised of that. And what are their names?
They're very new to me. I'm very new to you. This is a new age for me to be with, and yeah.
Find out their names. Send me a text that says whatever their name is doing okay or not doing so good, or has decided to clean up his or her act. Or are they boys or girls?
Boys. I'm gonna give their Mandarin names, by the way, so I can give them one that I don't like. Maybe I don't know. I'm still thinking.
Are you giving them? Are they Asian?
No, they're taking Mandarin Chinese. They're just like 8th graders. Yeah.
8th graders taking Mandarin Chinese.
Yes, they're.
Yeah. Let me know what their Mandarin names are.
Yes, I may ask you for help.
I'd be delighted to help you, and I promise not to disturb your class any more than I already am doing. So, we probably should close. It's getting very late and way past the time that I'm allotted, and I only get paid for the first 5 minutes. So, but way past that. Sorry if I've taken up too much of your time. I apologize. You know, sometimes people think it's going to end in 58 minutes.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiho san shi shi fu shi son lu sa moko sa moko the 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita,